color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day. While the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor, he was telling you to build your own house.
Welcome to the Gilchrist experience. As you see, that's Malcolm back in the 60s. I refer to that because that was the early beginnings of my knowledge of the movement, the black movement of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we sit here today with one of his ministers, my good friend, Hafiz Muhammad, and we're talking about an event coming up this Sunday with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. And we're going back to the past to understand, we old-timers, Leroy and I, what we experienced coming up and being exposed to Minister Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Leroy was raised a Catholic, and I was a Baptist. So when who were just watching, my goodness, senior moment.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X. When he came about, we were befuddled, I would say, about his habits. But let me do it this way. I'm going to put on Gil Noble explaining his experience with Malcolm X. And maybe that better explain than I can of how we felt about the movement, the black movement. I mean, Leroy entered the ministry at 1966, right? Raised a Catholic and thought that they wouldn't accept a Catholic. Now, you being a junior, age-wise, wouldn't quite understand how it was back in these days where we were trying to fit in. We thought it, not eating pork or
Same thing in my time. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness and my father was a 33rd degree Mason, and they gave birth to a Muslim minister, so think about that.
That's good. Well, we'll get to your story.
We still had to fight on buses too with white boys at Bildersley Junior High School.
What year was that?
That was back in the 70s, where they thought that they could come on our bus,
Right.
forbade us to come on theirs, and we really didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some of us who wanted to integrate among them, and they beat them up real bad, our young brothers and
Well,
sisters.
tell us about the 70s.
But then when they tried to say that we'll come on your bus, because we missed the white man, well, we put a whipping on them so bad and then threw them out the window, then proceeded to get off the bus and whip them some more to let them know.
Where was this? What city?
This was a Bildersley Junior High School.
And what
on
city?
Flatlands, in Brooklyn, New
Brooklyn.
York.
Are you from Brooklyn?
I'm Brooklyn.
You're Brooklyn.
Brooklyn,
in the
yo.
house. Oh, Brooklyn in the house. Now I understand.
Born in Harlem Hospital.
Born in Harlem Hospital.
Raised in Brooklyn.
Why did I think you weren't from New York?
I'm sorry?
I thought you weren't from New York.
Of course I'm from New York.
Wow, I missed that.
New York born and bred, brother.
All right, and your title today?
Homegrown.
Homegrown. My man.
Well, for the last 17 years, I've served as the New York representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan once again, and for the last 2 months now, I'm the East Coast regional representative of the Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
How does this opening hit you?
Oh, it's powerful, Winston. I'm honored. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here with you and with my brother and friend, Brother Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
It's an honor.
How does youngsters such as yourself?
And I'm honored to be sitting in the seat that Malcolm X once sat in. And then after him, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know, and know what that seat feels like. Not because I wanted to. I didn't request this. I didn't seek this. I was called out of the congregation based upon work and service and commitment and love. And so I serve from that vantage point today. So I don't serve over people. I'm no one's boss. You know, Minister Farrakhan teaches us our people don't like bosses, but they're like servants. So we're SOS, servants, saviors of servants of the saviors. Meaning our people are the saviors and we're the servants of them who must save our people.
And all this knowledge came to you through
the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, God's exalted servant, and his chief representative, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which is my leader, teacher, and guide from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad today, ours. And he has taught me these things personally and openly and broadly, but also directly.
Being a New Yorker, you came through the normal procedures of being exposed to Christian mentality?
Of course.
What drove you from from Christian to Muslim?
Well, I never really was a Christian. You know, my mother was a Jehovah's Witness, where she didn't identify being called a Christian. My father was a Mason, and he would take me into churches, but not necessarily church services. So I wasn't in the choir, and I didn't go out every Sunday unless I was in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, I grew up there 13 summers, and they took me to the church then because of my grandmother. Okay. But I wouldn't necessarily say I was a Christian. What drove me to God was the death of my father. Because
your father
if I had a choice of
no, he was a Mason.
Who would leave first, my father or my mother, I wanted it to be my mother because of the kind of relationship we had. But my father was taken first by God. So then I disowned God and said,
you a Mason also?
Am I a Mason?
Mason also?
I'm above Masonry.
Okay.
You know, we are where Masons go to, but I have them as brothers and friends. But I've not went through the lodge, no.
Okay. All right.
No, sir.
All right. What about the 5%ers?
Of course. I'm a 5%er.
Right?
Infinite Tashin, great God Allah. That will always still be my name. Straight out of Brooklyn.
Yeah, I see now.
So I identify with the brothers. So those that are listening, peace, power, equality, Allah sees everything.
Yeah.
Islam, I self, Lord and Master.
That makes sense.
That's my brotherhood. That was my first exposure to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the lessons and the street academies in Harlem and in Brooklyn and in Queens. We would say Mecca, Medina, you know, the desert, as we would say in our language there.
Did you know Charles Kenyatta?
Yes.
Reverend Kenyatta.
I was blessed to know him. May Allah be pleased with him.
Yeah.
I heard of him under the messenger and Malcolm. I met him. He used to be the pastor of a White Rock Baptist Church, which is right on the same block of Muhammad Mosque number 7 in Harlem, 106-08 West 127th Street.
Okay.
And I knew him when he disliked Minister Farrakhan.
Who?
Charles Kenyatta, Reverend Charles Kenyatta. And it was a speech that Minister Farrakhan did when he spoke over the life of Queen Mother Moore. And that word, Reverend Charles Kenyatta, changed his disposition toward Minister Farrakhan and loved him to the day that he passed.
This is after Malcolm died?
Yes.
Okay.
That one thing changed him. And I learned from there the power of the word can change a heart that may have been turned against you, but by the grace of God, it can turn it back. And that wasn't even the minister's intent, but I shared it with him, and he was so pleased. And him and Reverend Kenyatta met as a result and embraced each other as they used to know each other and love each other at one time.
I wouldn't bring up the. I won't even talk about that. Well, let's go to the Roland.
Well, go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
What was the rift between Kenyatta and Farrakhan?
The rift was the issue with Malcolm X.
Okay.
And what happened in all in that time.
What was the rift?
Well, I'm not going to get into that. That's old news. It's buried. You know why it's buried? Because they reconciled. So I wouldn't go there. Once there's reconciliation, then we don't go back and talk about what created the problem. We go to the end result of where we are. Now, if it was not resolved, then maybe I would have spoken into it and prayed for a reconciliation, but that has already happened.
Okay. Brother Leroy?
That clip that you played of Malcolm, when I came to the mosque, what I was impressed with was the same energy that I saw Malcolm speak with, that the ministers, and I went there to see this Louis X. And it was due to my friend telling me about this presentation that this Louis X, Minister Louis X, had given on the dollar bill. I said, what kind of lecture is that? He said he broke the dollar bill down, the symbols and all that. I said, man, I got to go and hear this. I said, and my friend had been a Catholic. We grew up together, Brother Joel. And so that was my entree into the mosque, because if Joel could get in as a Catholic and we grew up together, then I could get in. So that's how I got to the mosque. And the point I'm going at is that people seeing that clip of Malcolm, if they are anywhere like me, Brother Leroy, they will be impressed with the same fire today that you feel, that you experience with the ministers in the Nation of Islam, and Minister Abdul Hafiz being one of them. And I'm not saying this because he's here, I'm just sharing that. That we are impressed by Malcolm because of the force and power of the word and how fearless he presents. And that same fearlessness you find today in the Nation of Islam. So I just wanted to make that comment.
All right.
Praise due to Allah.
You know, I wanted to show a little bit about your fire. You were talking about Hafiz fire and brimstone. All right, let's run the clip from Kevin and out in Brooklyn. Now, he was in his hometown, his home county at the time. All right? Let's run the clip on Kevin. See, I'm stuck on Kevin.
That's
No,
10 years ago.
My son's name is
I
Kevin.
understand. It means prince.
Hafiz. Yeah. You have the Roland? Debbie?
First inoculation was Dr. King. And then that led me to Adam Powell and a lot of the people. But I was put off by Malcolm X.
Why?
Because what he was saying and the way he was saying it was too blunt. It was dangerous. And you didn't say those things in those days. I told you, we had been socialized as kids to get around wrong, not to confront it. And Malcolm spoke in very declarative terms, and he said some terrible things about white people that we thought, but you would never express it, you see. He talked about the way this country was not a democracy, but a hypocrisy, and he talked about what had been happening to us down south and up south. And he was not shy. He had and he was very, very intimidating. I'm man enough to admit it. To a lot of people who are my age who will speak, you know, with love about Malcolm as though it had always been that way. But that's not so. He scared a lot of us to death. And then, mind you, I had this apartment, a bachelor apartment on Convent Avenue, and I'd been having a lot of fun, you know. And here he comes talking about a different way of life. First of all, he dropped his last name. Well, we had been socialized to take great pride in our last name. The more European it sounded, the better. There was not a flinch about, you know, noble. Oh, that's wonderful. If it wasn't French enough, you'd put an ETT on it, you know, to make it sound more French. And so here's a man who dropped his good last name and replaced it with an X. I thought the man was crazy. And then he talked about discipline. And he talked
Self-discipline?
Self-discipline. He said that we do not believe in drinking. And at the time I would have a taste. And he said that we don't smoke cigarettes with or without a label on them. And I would smoke, you know, with a label.
Yes.
And he said, we don't eat pork. Well, you know, I love me some ribs. And then he said, we don't fornicate.
Yes.
And so psychologically, I said, Malcolm, I'll see you later.
Yes.
You know, and all. But what he was doing in deprecating whiteness, I came to understand later that he was rearranging the balance that we needed, because we had glorified whiteness and deprecated blackness. And so he was tilting, using exaggerated terms, to give us a sense of self and to take whites down a little as they needed to be. And the discipline that he was talking about were things that we really needed to address. But I couldn't swallow that at the time. So jumping forward in time, a lot of things happened in the struggle, and Malcolm was struck down in '65, and I never went to hear him speak. My only impression of Malcolm was on the sound bites on the evening news. And if there was a rally in Harlem, where I'm living now, I'm living in Harlem, and he would have a rally 10 blocks away, I would go in the other direction.
Did he have a mosque there?
He had a mosque on 116th Street, and I didn't live too far away from there. But I went out of my way to avoid this man because I thought he was wrong. I had a white friend who...
So see, I play that to show you, Gil speaks for me and a lot of elders. And Malcolm was very powerful, and he brought a lot of people to him, but those of us in trying to get along, going along to get along, or knew the ignorance of bigotry, didn't see quite the turnaround that really the Muslim movement took. And Leroy was exposed to a lot of stuff where our age, when Martin Luther King died, a lot of the establishment brought on, jobs were available all of a sudden, and the movement was going a little bit different. But that was the 70s. I don't know, Leroy, in the 60s, those sort of stuffs were available.
The 64, 65 affirmative action was...
taking off, right? So when the contrast, as Gil said, it was unusual to go that route. I mean, you came later on. You were born in '63, so in the midst of all this, it was different. I mean, I remember, I won't tell that story, but nobody could stop eating pork. I mean, I thought it was crazy. I mean, I'm going to drop my last name. I had Gilchrist as a last name. I'm going to drop my last name. I mean, that means worker for Christ, and I'm a Christian, so I was in the right mode. Of course, I wasn't practicing as well as I do now. But changing your religion, something so completely foreign from what we're conditioned to. Supposedly the white man's religion.
Not supposedly, it is the white man's religion.
Well, and the Muslim religion is what?
God's religion.
God. But
now, Christianity taught properly belongs to God. Yet, there is no religion called Christianity. There is no religion called Judaism. But in the Quran, Allah says, this day for you I have perfected your religion. Since you're looking for one, you don't need one. And as the Farrakhan teaches, all you need is 2 words, obey God. But since you want one, I give you Islam as a religion, not Islam from the Arabs. Not Islam Kufi, Jalabia, Misrak stick. Not that Islam. Not Islam with the prayer rug. Islam where you love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Because see, all of the scriptures belong to God. Because the Creator is not a schizophrenic God. He knows that he's the creator of all living things, the revealer of all truths, the son of all prophets. So we say Allah because we believe Allah means, and it does, the all in all. All of his attributes are in that one name. But you may say Yahweh, you may say Jehovah, you may say Elehom, Shiloh, whatever.
Yeah,
all of these.
Jesus and
all of these. Well, Jesus is the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
He's the S-U-N and he's the S-O-N in a spiritual sense.
Mm-hmm.
See? Not in the physical sense now. He's not the physical
how about going back
seed of God, but
to
he's
the
the spiritual son.
How about the ancient Egyptians, Isis and
Well,
Osiris?
before them, we were. Egypt is but a sign, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches. We left the pyramids as a sign of the civilizations we buried before we let this new man come onto the planet. So it's great, but it ain't greater than what we had before that.
So there's no religion for you except Islam?
The religion for me, brother, is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches and Minister Farrakhan. You know what the true real religion is? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Hebrew, I'm a Jew, I'm a Catholic, all of those names. I'm all of that and then some. But I'm not the kind of Catholic where I bow down to engraving images. But I believe in the universality of God. I'm a Christian because I believe to be crystallized into the oneness with God. Okay. I'm a Jew because I learned that a Jew becomes a Hebrew, one who must pass over their own shortcomings to take up the righteousness of God. So all of that we are. We don't want to be caught on these narrow constructs that have been put together by open enemies to keep us separate and divided, yet they remain united under business. Look at what's going on in the NFL right now. Look at what Jerry Jones did as an owner. He took a knee with his players. Look how deceptive they are. And then he stood for the anthem. Now tells his players, if you're going to suit up in my Dallas Cowboys uniform, America's favorite team, you're going to stand for that anthem or you won't take that field. Look at the hypocrisy of this because of the business of the NFL. That's all on ESPN, the business. It's affecting the bottom line. So this is not sports to entertain America, and as a result of you getting a ticket, we pay the players that entertain you and that make you feel good about this sport of football. You know, a kind of running, pugilism, knocking the crap out of everybody. And I love football. I love to play it. I've been a quarterback, wide receiver. But this is a business. And if you're going to make the players stand, then that's like the slave master telling the slave, you're going to pick that cotton. The only difference is I'm giving you a paycheck. I'm paying you to be my slave this time. I didn't pay you before.
Yeah.
I whipped you with the whip. That's why I got the name Cracker. Huh?
Yeah.
I raped your women. Huh? And your children. Huh? 12 years a slave. But today I'm going to pay you, Negro. Run up and down that field for me. I'm going to pay you. Bounce that ball and put it in the hoop. I'm going to pay you. Hit them home runs for me. But I'm going to pay you, but you mind. See, that's what that owner, Sterling, that used to own the Clippers, that's what he was saying. He was speaking the truth. You have your cars because of us. You have your clothes because of us. You have this because of us.
So what's the answer to all that?
The answer is do for yourself. The answer is separation or death. That's the answer. That's the answer. That's what Malcolm represented from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the 60s. This is not something new that Minister Farrakhan is presenting on this coming Sunday. In 1961, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke at the Uline Arena, and the subject was separation or death.
So what do you suppose separation. Tell me about separation.
Well, that's better than segregation. Segregation is when you have a superior imposing being divided from each other.
Where are we going?
On an inferior.
Where are we separating to?
Oh, brother, we can separate right here if God wants it. Here, let me help you out a little bit. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says we want to separate a territory in a land of our own that's minerally rich, with an outlet to the sea. That could be anywhere. But Minister Farrakhan has reminded us, if God wants this, he'll take this. Let me show you how he's going to take it. Have you heard about Hurricane Harvey? Have you heard of Hurricane Jose? How about Hurricane Maria? Oh, you heard about Buddha? The beauty of this is minimal loss of life, if any, until the earthquakes in Mexico. What was destroyed in Barbuda? 95 to 97% property. What was destroyed in St. Martin, Dominica? Properties. What is God telling you? What happened with Puerto Rico? Lives were saved. Properties destroyed. San Juan, how San Juan look today? Let's see if the open enemy can go there now and be in your palatial palace while you got Puerto Ricans on that island, $72 billion in debt as America's Commonwealth. But you can go to San Juan and lift your feet up and enjoy the blue waters and the sun while the Puerto Rican people are in debt to you for what? You dropping bombs in Vieques, testing them for whenever you want to use them, but the Puerto Rican people live in substandard means. Look how God clears the area out, and then people leave. He can put in there whoever he wants to put in there. It's not hard today.
Where's the separation or death?
What do you mean, where's the separation?
You have here separation or
Yeah,
death.
separating from my enemies.
Where are we separating to?
Are we not separated right now? We already separated.
Well, what's the theme here? Separation or death?
The minister will speak on that on Sunday, my friend. I'm not here to talk on his message, but I can tell you the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that we live in our communities, Brother Winston. Ever since your time, we've been living where there's black and then there's white. Where there's black and then there's white, and then there's Bangladesh. There's black and then there's white, and then there's Mexican. There's black and then there's white, and then there's Italian. There's black and then there's white, and then there's Chinese. Come on now. We've always been like this, redlining. A political division of the people without asking to be divided from one another. We're asking that there's needs to be a solution between the black and the white. Look at America.
What solution are you asking for?
Oh, that...
Oh, we have to come and listen
we
to
need
him?
to divorce from each other. This marriage is not working.
Where are we going?
Our people are dying. Look here. We're going to go right where we are right now.
Can you explain it, Leroy?
Well, the minister is right on point. It might be something new that people are hearing, but the reality of it, I use the school system. Mm-hmm. I use the school system as a prime example. And that school system is run by others, because black parents will say, where am I going to take my child if they don't go to PS 90 or PS whatever? And the children come out year after year dumb as all get up, because they're not educated. They're not going to educate our people to be their equal or their superior in a time when they know that the quality of the young people coming up is way ahead of what we had. The children today, and I'm talking about black children in particular, but it's happening with Caucasian children, but I'm concerned with black children. Black children are swift. If you have the occasion to talk to any look at these little babies, you see their eyes, they are bright. But the enemy doesn't see that. The enemy sees somebody who's going to take their place, and therefore they're not going to educate our children. The charter schools, for example, are raising, my observation, are raising obedient Negroes to the empire. They're teaching them the discipline to follow there. And then when they get out of school, they got a little dot on their forehead, and the black parent picks up their child with a little dot on their forehead, meaning the children with this dot is in this class. Our people, it's right in front of us and we don't see it. The separation, here you have separation or death, and that death part is right with us. I'm going to jump from the school situation, but let me go back to the school. Every year in June, we see little black children, parents are buying them uniforms to graduate from one grade to another, and at the end of their term in school, in high school, they don't know how to read and write. I interact with young people in the Bronx. They don't know how. Our teenagers, they don't know how to write script.
It's planned genocide.
It's menticide. First, on 125th Street and Lexington Avenue, there you see young men. What is the background of these young men? Foster care, in some cases, Ritalin and other drugs, psychotropic drugs, and that's we see our wounded every day. So when it says, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says separation, I said the same thing that you said. I said, well, where are we gonna go? I said the same thing, but today there's no alternative. They just shot a black man in Salt Lake City, in the back. The man was on a bike. They shot him in the back, said the man had threatened them with a knife. And that story goes over and over and over again. And the dilemma that the 5% are in, the 5% are the teachers of those in 85%, to pull them away from the subjugation of the 10% who blood suck them, who suck their blood and take advantage of them. The dilemma is that our people can't even see what is right in front of us. So when you have a declaration like the minister is coming with, separation or death, that's a wake-up call headline in itself. I can't speak for Brother Minister, but I know we're on the same page.
Well,
Of course we are.
Well, I'm trying to get on the page here.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm trying, and I ask these questions, and not to be cute. I'm just, what are you talking about? All right, let me go to this. Maybe we can better understand. Maybe I can better understand where you're coming from. When you let's run Hafiz. I got to call you Kevin. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, my man here, run the piece from Brooklyn.
Now listen now, let's move this. Can we move this podium? They said move it. There we go. Now listen, I just want you to feel me. We closing out. It's time to go, but are you ready to go yet? You can't be ready to go, because it's justice or else. And we don't have justice. Justice is fair dealing. Have we been getting a fair shake? No. We haven't gotten a fair shake with the police officers. They shot our brother down in Charleston and planted a weapon right next to him. Justice or else. All over this country, we've been treated with injustice. But now, brothers and sisters, Minister Farrakhan said we're fighting a war on two fronts. Because right here at home, right in Baltimore with Freddie Gray, as bad as that was with Freddie Gray, over the Memorial Day weekend, we killed 35 of our own people ourselves. Popo didn't do that. In Chicago, 1,000 last summer, and we creeping up on hundreds this summer. Right here in New York City, we've been killing each other by the tens. In Harlem, in Brooklyn, in Staten Island, in the Bronx. We've been killing ourselves. So we need justice too, from our own selves. We need to seek refuge from the evil of our own hands. So we're telling us, if it's unjust to go fight an unjust war, then it's even more unjust for us to pick up guns in the hood and shoot crooked and kill each other. It's unjust that we pull out knives and stab one another. It's unjust that black man hates black man. It's unjust that a black man will beat on his own black woman, or any man beating on any woman. It's unjust. It's unjust, sister, if you chase him out the house with the butcher knife. It's unjust. We have to stop violence against one another, because the enemies and those that believe in white supremacy, those that believe in police brutality and mob attacks, the modern day KKK, the modern day white supremacists, the modern day hater of anything other than themselves. They use what we do to justify, saying, look at you, you're animals with your own self. We must be more civilized. So we need to give ourselves justice by stop killing ourselves. Minister Farrakhan has said we got to set up conflict resolution centers. We got to set it up where we can stop the beefs in the community. We got to sit and with the brothers and show them the gangbangers, other gangbangers who used to gangbang, who don't gangbang no more. Guess what? You got to go back with the new gangbangers and show them what tough love is.
That's right.
And get them to stop doing it like you stopped doing it.
Right.
Those of you that didn't gangbang, leave them alone. You can't go to them with pussyfooting with brothers that are hard knock life out in these streets. You got to get the hard knock life brother to deal with the hard knock life brother. You can't solve everything with prayer at first.
Right, right.
Sometimes you got to apply discipline to the beast mind. Then give it prayer once it's ready to accept prayer. But we can't pray our way out of everything. Prayer without works is death.
Preach, brother, preach. Tell him.
So we ain't gonna pray our way out of this. But we ain't gonna fight each other either.
Right, right.
So black woman and all women, black, Asian, white, love yourself. No woman should be disrespected by another man.
Right.
No woman should be lived in her mouth by another man like he's her dentist. If she needs to get her tooth work on, she'll go see her dentist.
Yeah.
She don't need us abusing her.
Teach, brother, teach.
Am I speaking the truth?
See, now this is the guy I know.
Same
This
one
is
sitting
my
here.
man. I mean, there's other stuff. I mean,
What other stuff? Same one sitting here, my brother.
separation.
You just
Now we're
don't
gonna
like
separate?
it. Well, then
No,
stay with your enemy.
let-
Stay with him as
See?
we're dying
There we
in
go.
his presence.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me finish what
But
I
that's
was
how
gonna
you said it, Winston.
How I said
That's
it. How you said
my
it.
friend.
I mean, I
I'm
heard.
saying what
See,
is-
this is the
I'm
Kevin
saying
I
what
know.
Jesus says. There'll be two lying in the bed.
Now,
He
what are
will
we
take
arguing
one
about? I'm
and leave
asking
the
you
other.
a question.
No, we're not
and you
arguing.
yet
Go ahead,
to
my
answer
friend.
my question.
Go ahead. I've answered your
Where is
question.
this Kevin? We're talking about fighting and killing
I'm
each
Hafiz
other.
there. I'm Hafiz there. I'm not Kevin there.
You're not Kevin?
No, sir.
All right. All right.
I know you want to take me back, brother, but you got to
No,
honor the
but I
minister
mean-
naming me. That's who I am. Abdul Hafiz,
Hafiz.
Muhammad.
All right.
It's no problem.
All right. Now, Hafiz.
Yes, sir, Brother Winston.
Now, how do we get back to this taking care of business and stop killing each other? This is what I'm interested in.
Yes.
See, when I replayed this, this is the Kevin I wanted to see. I don't want to talk about I want to talk about how we're going to solve our problem. Is it with separation where we take care of each other
Of course it is.
and we take care of our women?
Of course it is.
All right, then that's what I want to
Don't
hear
you,
about.
don't you understand, under our own community,
Never
our
mind.
own political construct, we would be different?
Well, you claim
Which
to
is-
have the only religion that can bring us forward. And,
No, who said that now? Who
That's
said
what
that?
I get out of it.
Who said that? I
Well,
didn't say we have the
but
only
you tell me,
religion. The
Now,
true religion of
I
God.
said to Leroy, and I said, you gotta watch
true
Kevin,
religion of
and you
God.
gotta watch Hafiz because he's a bully.
The true religion
And
of
some of
God.
the stuff you got in here, you
The
became
true,
that bully.
the true religion of God.
See,
Really?
I told you he was a bully.
I'm a decent man.
Brother
I'm a
Minister,
decent man.
Brother Minister,
The true religion of God is to obey God, Winston. We never said we had
That's
the
in
religion
any
that could solve it all.
religion.
No, any religion
have a-
doesn't do it.
Well, my religion doesn't. I claim to be a Christian. My
Yes,
name
sir.
is Gilchrist.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Gilchrist, right?
Chris.
Gilchrist.
But it's
why
spelled
is the Gil in
Gilchrist.
front?
It means servant.
Really?
Servant of Christ.
Very good.
Servant of Christ.
Very good.
Now, Jesus looked like me.
Yes, he did. And
All
me.
right.
He looked like
No,
us.
he looked more like me.
Okay, if you want to put it that
I got the
way.
features of
Yes,
Jesus.
sir.
It
You
wasn't a
sure?
picture. Yeah, that's what people
He had
told
hair
me.
like lamb wool and feet like burnished brass in the
Well,
oven. So he was a lot blacker than you were.
No, he wasn't.
Watch
He
it.
was a mulatto.
Watch it now.
Ethiopian.
Yeah, they're not mulattoes.
Brother
Okay.
Winston,
All
Brother
right.
Minister, the question that he raised is
Yes.
about what are we going to do about us killing one another, not
Yeah.
getting along. I want to go back to 1995, Day of Atonement. What does it mean? What did it mean? And what was the impact as it relates to his question in terms of what are we going to do about correcting our...
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says and teaches in his illuminating book, Revelation in book form, Message to the Black Man, that we must make our communities a decent and safe place to live. Spiritually, politically, morally, economically, socially, mentally, and emotionally, and psychologically. That's our role. And we are saying that it is more difficult to do it as we are such quasi together but not being respected, rather than if we separate it into an area of this country of our own, we will show you our way. See, I don't know, Winston, look, if you disagree with it, then you have a right to disagree.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I said, where are you going to separate to?
And I just
We
said
got
to
to
you,
deal
and a part
with
of this,
Trump. I haven't brought him up yet.
well, we can deal with him. But the point is, my dear brother, I hope that you would come on Sunday to hear the beloved minister and how God has put in his heart. I'm not jumping in front of him, even if I know something, and I don't claim to know more. But I do know that this is the answer, because we have tried integration, and it is failing us. It is failing our children. Brown versus the Board of Education, Brother Leroy and Brother Winston, was never about whites and blacks attending the same school. Judge Vixon, go look up the history, would have voted it down again 5-4 if he didn't have the heart attack. And the more moderate judge who came beneath him voted it for it. But it was never about us going to school together. It was about, if in the white schools you have bricks, then don't give us wood. That's rotten. If you have a number 2 pencil, don't give us 0.1 lead, that it breaks before we even put the answer in the circle, therefore we fail the test. That's what Brown versus the Board of Education was about. Lackawanna Blues up in Buffalo, New York. It showed how we had our own towns, our own railroads. We were the clicker man. We were the man that ran the trains. We were the ones that built them. We had our own town. Black Wall Street. This is all pre-separation, my friend. They burnt Black Wall Street down in Oklahoma so that blacks would never, ever again take their finance from among the whites of this nation. With the black dollar and the dollar as a whole circulated, and the research, 6 months in Black Wall Street. That was living amongst ourselves. And among us is the black Muslims. Prior to the fall of the nation in 1975, with the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we controlled businesses in our community, and we kept that money amongst ourselves.
What happened to all that?
Oh, brother, we went through a trial. Now we're working to bring it back, and little bit by little bit, we're doing it. I thank our minister in the Southern region, student minister, Abdul Sharif Muhammad. They opened up your supermarket. I've been talking about that here. It's harder in the north, but we're going to make it happen. I want our own supermarkets. I want our own grocery stores. I want our own delis. I'm tired of going to the Arabs that got the hookah. Tired of going to the Arabs that hit on our women.
Well,
tired of going to the Arabs with the liquor.
How are you going to do all this?
Brother, we're going to do it through unity, Brother Winston. With unity.
Help me unite. Tell me
If
something.
you and me can unite, and with the understanding of what we got to do, rather than the age difference, then we can unite, my friend.
Well, you have to speak up to an elder, not speak down to
We're
him.
not talking down to you. We would never do that, my brother.
Do I know this? Do I know that? No, I don't. I'm looking to a youngster like you to
Yes, sir. Well, I'm sharing it with you, my brother and friend.
on this. But
I'm
you
still
have
your
to
man.
respect what my stance is and
Of
where I'm coming
course.
from.
Your
Matter of
stance
fact,
could
it's
be
called
totally
the Gilchrist
different.
experience.
Your
This
stance
is
could
your
be-
experience
Yes,
on
sir.
the Gilchrist experience.
Your stance could be totally different than mine, and I will still respect you.
Okay. Now, I stand up. What is this separation about? I want to know what I'm coming to. Well, I can't make this. Anyway, so I just want to...
You got something more important than seeing your brother and friend, Minister Farrakhan.
Yes, I do.
I understand. No problem.
I want to deal
And
with
it's
unity.
Sunday.
I want to deal with unity,
Okay.
which is a perception that people have. I'm talking about within our community. Black folks have this perception that black Muslims, the Nation of Islam Muslims, don't believe in God, and don't believe in Jesus. At the same time, Minister Farrakhan, and this is a question directed to you, Brother Minister, Minister Farrakhan his personal appearances appear to be in churches, more in churches than it does in mosques around the country. And when you hear his presentations, whether it's to an assembly of clergy or at a church congregation, he talks Jesus. Would you explain his acceptance or acceptance from Christian ministers, and the fact that there appears to be a united understanding when he preaches Jesus in those churches, and how that relates to the question of how are we going to get together, how are we going to do this?
And I add this to it before you answer. And I've seen a tape where you said Jesus was a Muslim.
And he is.
There you go. Okay.
all of the prophets of God were Muslims,
Okay.
even if some of them were Jews, or called that of their day and time. Because a Muslim just means one who submits their will to do the will of God. Every human being is a Muslim except the rebellious devil, the Quran says. Every human being is a Muslim. So it ain't got nothing to do with Jesus the prophet. Human beings, God says.
Well, then
God had human beings on the planet before Jesus.
Well, you have to explain
And he
that.
got human beings on the planet after Jesus has gone and his ascension. Human beings are still here. That's what he's after.
Okay.
So your point now that you asked me now was?
The fact out here on 125th Street, people see brothers selling the Final Call, and I've seen
the church. Let me say to the church. Yeah. I'm going to answer through my experience. I'm the first Muslim minister in New York City to speak from the pulpit of St. Paul's Community Baptist Church.
Where's
Reverend Youngblood.
First Muslim and Muslim in the nation.
Where's
Reverend Youngblood.
Reverend Youngblood was the
Okay.
pastor. Reverend Pastor Brawley is there now.
Okay.
I spoke there before 2,000 people. You understand? On Father's Day, 1994. Memorable moment.
94.
Still remembered to this day. My dear brother and friend, may God be pleased with him, Reverend Clarence Norman Sr., 3 times from the pulpit at First Baptist Church of Crown Heights on Rogers and Eastern Parkway. Huh? I've spoken from the pulpit of Abyssinian, not on a Sunday as a guest,
Right.
but invited in and at other period and peak times.
Okay.
Elam International in Brooklyn. And I can go the roll of the list of the churches we've been blessed to speak in. I've done services for non-Christians in Christian churches. As a Muslim minister, the pastor opened the door for us to come in and had his people to come and help do what we have to do. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has a personal and intimate relationship with the knowledge of Jesus. And I do too. And we operate from that vantage point. I'm a student of the Torah and the Injil and the Quran. And when we speak, whether it is at a Muslim janazah or we're speaking at one of the believers' funeral services of their mother or their father or their sister or their brother or their aunt or their uncle or their cousin or their close relative, with remarks, we unify. Because that's always been our work, to unify amongst our people. Then unify with other than ourselves. But charity begins at home and then spreads abroad. And we're saying here, with this upcoming message on Sunday, October the 15th, at Newark Symphony Hall in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, it's in Newark. Okay.
It's in Newark. And those tickets are still available. Those that want it, that are listening right now, you can dial 973-624-5532. 973-624-5532. If you can't come on that day, you can go to NOI.org and view the minister at 2 p.m. However, we call for this message because our people are suffering in this country. And we can see now the rise of the Aboriginal people today. And P. Diddy just said it in what he said about 7 or 8 or 9 hours ago. I once wanted an NFL team to own one. He says, now I want to start my own league. See, that's separation. That's divesting from your open enemies that you think are going to be your friends one day, but they never intend to be.
That leads me to a little role and I want to put in what we're dealing with today. This devil in the White House after Obama.
You got devils everywhere, but yeah, we can talk about that one.
And they come in all colors, brother.
Yes, they do, my brother.
All right.
But there's some worse than others.
According to your opinion.
No, the truth of God.
Okay. And listen to this devil, all right?
I don't represent opinions, I represent God.
Whoa. And me too.
Thank you. But we got to represent his word as it is.
Okay. You have,
Because it's not just the political system that's rigged, it's the whole economy. It's rigged by big donors who want to keep wages down.
Taxes too high, wages too high,
We're not going to be able to compete against the world. I hate to say it, but we have to leave it the way it is. It's rigged by big businesses who want to leave our country, fire our workers, and sell their products back into the United States with absolutely no consequences for them.
As a line of clothing. Now, where were these made?
These were made, I don't know where they were made, but they were made someplace. But they're great. It's ties, shirts, cufflinks, everything sold at Macy's, and they're doing great. #1 selling tie anywhere in the world.
#1 selling
I don't know.
tie
Normally
anywhere
I
in the
wouldn't
world.
wear that shirt,
You wouldn't wear that
we
shirt?
We also have them in white and beautiful white.
Where are the shirts made? Bangladesh.
Well, it's good. Okay. We employ people in Bangladesh.
Ties? Where are the ties
They
made?
have to work
These are
too.
beautiful ties.
They are great ties.
The ties are made in where? China? Ties are made in China.
But here, and this is the way it is the bottom line. I started off in Brooklyn, New York, not so long ago, with a small loan. And built a business that today is worth well over $10 billion. If I'm elected president, I will end the special interest monopoly in Washington, D.C. Our country will be better off when we start making our own products again, bringing our once great manufacturing capabilities back to the shores. I mean, we have to bring our manufacturers back to the United States. Desperately needed. Desperately, we need those jobs. And we need it even from our psyche. Hillary Clinton supported Bill Clinton's disaster.
Oh man, you know,
That's not the case, my Winston. You threw some curveballs that you didn't say you were going to throw, but it's all right.
Curveballs?
I'm just responding to them.
Oh, curveballs? Like what? No.
Look,
like,
my friend, let me just say this to you, first of all.
All right.
That if you felt anything in the tenor of what I said and my passion, I have nothing but high respect for you, and you know that, Winston.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm a fighter for truth.
Okay.
I'm a fighter for freedom, justice, and equality.
Okay.
I'm not a person that disagrees if someone else has a diversion thought. That's your right for that. I
Okay.
deal with that all the time.
Okay.
We sell the Final Call newspaper, and what we teach at Monster #7 is that rejection is redemptive. People turn us down, we fight even harder on the truth.
Okay.
You don't have to believe in this process, but it's happening. It's taking place. It's undeniable. And maybe at another time in another show, we can deal with that, but God is making a way for us. So post Sunday, October 15th, there's going to be a lot for us to talk about, because no matter what, we already know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught on this subject. He's been revealing even more, Brother Leroy, to his representative, Minister Farrakhan, for us. So I'm waiting for Sunday so that I can get further guidance and instruction. But I do know this. This is the solution, because if not, the choice is going to be death. The American people are dying. We are dying. White supremacy is on the rise. Black inferiority still exists, but yet black love is thriving to come forward today. Black resistance is thriving to come forward today. The Aboriginals want to come forward today. They want to be heard. And what comes now from Hurricane Maria is the devastation of Puerto Rico. How will it be rebuilt? Go into our AT and find out, do the research of what happened with the monies, the millions upon millions that was raised, and see whether the people in Haiti, or Haiti as it's better called, are better off today after the Clinton Global Initiative went in and stopped the growing of homegrown rice in our AT and then exported it in from Arkansas.
But that was before Clinton.
No, that's during them.
Was
Sir?
that during the rice?
During them. During. It's going on right now.
Was it one of their relatives
That's
got
why-
the
Of
franchise?
course. Yes, but it's still connected to the Clinton Global Initiative.
So that's why Clinton wasn't elected, because of
Well,
all the
that's-
dirt that Bill did.
And all that she did, my brother. She didn't do a whole lot for us when she was senator here in New York City. Check her record. And when she got a Secretary of State, she was hawkish as she could be. And God bless Mrs. Clinton, because if she would have won, she would have been the more experienced president, other than what we have in the office right now.
Well, let's talk about the one we have now.
Well, the one that we have right now, Minister Farrakhan said was going to lead us to hell in a rocket ship. And he's doing a good job of it.
Yeah, so why aren't we fighting that?
We don't need to fight him. What we need to do is build for ourselves. That's been our problem.
Well, might not
we
have
needed to fight Bush.
If this man stays in too much longer, we might not.
We shouldn't have had Bush, but we had him, right? And we were happy to have Obama, but they let him oppress him for 8 years.
Yeah, we let him.
We didn't let anybody do anything. We supported him.
You supported him?
Of course we did. And this man supported him. Of course we did. He spoke a subject protecting Obama. He spoke a subject from Mount Mariam, warning the forces of the government of the United States, don't touch our brother. And in 2012 or 13, from Savior's Day, he saved President Obama's life when Minister Farrakhan unveiled the plot, even from across the water, to kill him. Minister Farrakhan
I want to see that. I want to see that.
We supported him.
You know, it's been
a heck of a ride. I love you, man. Don't take nothing personal. I love you. I just got that fire, brother. Don't look back for the fire. The fire is right here in front of you.
The bully from Brooklyn.
No, brother, I'm the servant from the East Coast, brother. You know, and I love you.
You know, may I say this, Brother Winston, that when the unique experience of a Muslim minister is that as a black man, when they speak with force and power, even if they're not a minister, there is an interpretation of them as being close to bullies or chauvinistic or something like that. And it has no relationship. That's a mindset that comes from people, and I'm not talking about you, it's a mindset that comes from people who are not used to seeing black men stand up and talk.
Yeah,
all right, and I'm not talking about preach, but talk. But I want to also comment on the popularity of the Gilchrist experience. I'm on the street, a lady whose birthday is today, Fran is her name, lives in Harlem. She's passing me by, I'm on, looking at my phone and whatnot. Hey, didn't I see you on the Gilchrist? I want to thank you.
Peace and love. Thank you for coming. Again, the God in me loves the God in you, and stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist experience. My brother Hafiz is just as powerful as ever. And I was Plato. God be with you. God bless. Peace. Power to the people.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you.